Sherry, I'm really so happy to talk to you today for She Can. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's such an honor to be here. Thanks for asking me to do this. So my name is Sherry Sidoti, and I'm primarily a yoga teacher, yoga and meditation teacher here on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, where I live. I have a yoga school, so I also train teachers to teach yoga and meditation. And I have an outreach program where it's on pause right now because of the pandemic, but where we have been offering yoga and meditation in our local jail, as well as working with some addiction recovery organizations and our local hospital, helping them to work with pain management with their patients. And so we're using yoga and meditation as a mechanism to help in healing.
Beautiful, Sherry. Tell me about your journey. How did you get to become such an experienced and long-standing yoga teacher and meditation teacher? And I know you're writing a book. So expand on your journey, how you got there, and how you're publishing a book next year.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think it's been quite an organic process in terms of seeing what the needs are in myself, my own healing journey, as well as with my students, and then responding to that need and trying it on, and then afterwards doing the training and the expertise that's needed to serve that need. So my yoga journey began, I took classes for years, but it was an on and off relationship that I had with yoga. But I found out I was pregnant the day before 9/11. And thus my journey into motherhood and pregnancy started off with quite a hitch. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry and concern about what I was, bringing my child into, especially being a New Yorker. And so a friend of mine brought me to a prenatal yoga class, and it was the only place that I felt that my worry and anxiousness was subsiding. And it was more of a visceral experience I was having, where I was feeling empowered and connecting to this very poignant experience in my life of pregnancy. And I decided, so I basically practiced pretty much throughout my pregnancy. And when my son was just 4 months old, we decided to make the move. We had been living in California. We decided to make the move to Martha's Vineyard, which was a whole other story that happened by chance. But when we came here, and when my son was getting a little bit older, he was about a year old, I was ready to kind of return to work and put myself out there into the world again. And nobody on the island was teaching prenatal yoga. So I decided to get certified, and that's how my yogic journey began. And it was this, like I said, an organic unfolding. I started teaching prenatal, and then when those women had their babies, they asked me to teach baby and mommy yoga. And then those babies went to daycare, and they asked me to teach yoga without the babies. And it just kept spiraling and rolling. And after I think it was about 7 or 8 years of teaching, I had the idea of, bringing a training to Martha's Vineyard, because nobody here was training teachers. And anyone who wanted to teach yoga, or at least even expand on their practice beyond taking classes, has to leave their family and their work and their life on Martha's Vineyard and go elsewhere to study. So I spent a few years doing research and training with other teachers and assisting other trainings and developing my own program. And in 2010, opened up my own school.
Beautiful, Sherry. I love that story. Expand a little bit what type of yoga you do.
Mm-hmm. I teach, in terms of what you hear out there for classes, I kind of teach the gamut of it. I teach vinyasa yoga, hatha yoga, yin yoga, prenatal, postnatal. But really what my yoga sharing has morphed into is more of a holistic approach to yoga, so that I don't have necessarily an intention or a level, but I teach to what's showing up in the moment. And to me, yoga is really a sacred practice that reminds us of who we are on our inside. And that the tool that I have in sharing it is to simply create a sacred or a brave space for people to kind of unravel from all the interference, all the layers of protection and stuff that we create around ourselves, and forget who we are, right, in day-to-day living. And so my intention is really to offer practice through movement and breath work and conversation, community, all the things that a yoga class offers us, to see what wants to show up in the moment, and depending on who's there, and just create a space for all of us to return home to ourselves.
Oh, I love.
So I would say it's like a holistic kind of healing, healing practice, more than I teach this style of yoga or that style of yoga.
Yeah, beautiful, Sherry. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Tell me what motivates you in going forwards?
I think the main thing that motivates me in going forward is knowing and really believing that we are all here on the planet to do more than just exist and survive in the day-to-day. That there's real true reason for being here and being born, to where we were born, to whom we were born, where we're living, our own unique gifts that we're given, even our challenges and our traumas and our difficulties, that all of this is here for us to have deeper connection and, realize the purpose of co-creating this world together. So I think if I had to put it into one word, it would be relationshiping, or relationships is what motivates me. Understanding and exploring and being curious about this human experience and how we relate to one another and what keeps us going.
Oh, I love that, Sherry. Thank you for saying it so beautifully. And the co-creation is exactly what I think is really so prevalent right now in these challenging times, and how
Yes.
each one of us is creating this reality, and not just for ourselves, but for the collective we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, what do you think is your superpower?
I think my superpower is my ability to help make the sacred human, or how to make connections between things that might feel out of reach or invisible in our everyday.
I'd say that's a big superpower. You say it so nonchalantly, but that's a big thing.
Making connections really is what it is. I think I have the ability to, while things are happening in real time, make connections, between people, between ideas, philosophies, things that I've learned, and then communicate those connections so that others can make the connection for themselves.
Yeah, holding the sacred space. Thank you. Sherry, what would your top tips be for other women?
Ooh. I think probably embodying and embracing relationships and practices that remind us of who we truly are, and to surround ourselves, or, my encouragement for women is to surround yourself with people and reminders and practices that that ignite our own superpowers, and to not get distracted by, patriarchy and misogyny and to not get hooked by our story as wound, but to fuel our moving forward with the wisdom that comes from our story.
Oh, I've got chills, Sherry.
Mhm.
That's so really beautifully said. Thank you. That's beautiful, deep wisdom. Sherry, what are your plans or dreams for your future?
Mm. Well, I am working on this book. I'm almost finished and doing second, third, fourth, probably to 10th edits. And the book is scheduled to have a publisher, and the book is scheduled to be published in 2023. So that is certainly something that I look forward to moving forward. And also just continuing to heed to the calling that I received from, my family lineage and the inheritance that I've received, and to move that forward in the generations to come. So, secretly it's too soon because my son is very young, but can't wait to be a grandma. And as spring is upon us, a very near plan that I have is getting my garden planted,
Oh,
growing some
beautiful.
veggies and flowers.
Thank you so much for sharing all this beautiful wisdom. Thank you, Sherry, for talking to us.
You're so welcome. Thank you for asking and having the conversation with me.